Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. I'm so glad you're here, you guys. Every year, I love to do a Christmas movie. I like to recap it, talk about it, go into the behind the scenes stuff. I've done Christmas Vacation. I did The Holiday. Let's see, I did some sort of Real Housewives Christmas movie. I've done them all. So this year, during the charity live stream that we did, thank you all so much for all the money we raised for a good cause. We kind of took a vote. I'd put it to some of the highest donors to pick, but they were all so kind and they said, let's just vote. So in the stream, people picked Love Actually that they wanted to do this year. They also picked Die Hard, so we'll be doing that on Jay's channel eventually. I'll let you know when that's up. But for now, you're stuck with me, and we're doing Love Actually. It's actually, it's a lot of actuallys. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm so excited to talk about this one. I'll just be flashing pictures from it in the background. Again, a huge fan of the movie. I just like to go over some facts. I mean, most of you have seen it. Some of you have said you haven't seen it, so I'll try to fill in what the movie's about. I can tell you honestly, there are so many characters in this movie, it's hard to keep it all straight. If you haven't seen the movie before, I would encourage you to go watch it. It's on Netflix right now if you have Netflix. I know a lot of us canceled because of the Harry and Meghan stuff, but it is there. Otherwise, you could probably rent it on like Amazon or something. I just like to talk over what the movie's about. I'll talk through some of the characters, some of the behind the scenes information. We'll just have a conversation about it. Normally, I like to recap exactly what's going on, but with this one, with so many intersecting storylines throughout, I'm just going to talk the character storyline as a whole, so you kind of understand what the heck I'm talking about. All right, let's talk about this. So Love Actually came out in 2003. It's rated R. There's a little bit of nudity in it, and so I had to go through and pull out those pictures when I was screenshotting different things from the movies. I was like, oh, no, can't do that. We'll get into that, but such a good movie. I love this movie. It truly is one of my all-time favorites. It's one of my all-time favorite not only Christmas movies, but just movies in general. I'd say it's top 5 of my movies. I just love it. All right, so it came out 2003. It's got a runtime of 2 hours and 15 minutes. But to me, it just doesn't, I'm surprised when I watch it. I forget that it's that long. There's so many storylines that it tends to go for me pretty fast, and I just love it. So the premise of the movie is it follows the lives of 8 very different couples in dealing with their love lives and various loosely interrelated tales, all set during a frantic month before Christmas in London, England. And honestly, that's what I love some of the actors in the movie we'll get into, but as you know, I'm obsessed. I love the UK. I love England specifically. London is one of my all-time favorite cities in the world. I would love to spend more time there. It's just one of my favorite places to go. So the scenery is beautiful. We get glimpses of London throughout, and I love that. All right, let's talk about some of the people in the movie because there are a ton of stars. So we have Hugh Grant playing the Prime Minister, Martine McCutcheon playing Natalie, Liam Neeson is Daniel, Laura Linney is Sarah, Bill Nye is Billy Mack, Gregor Fisher is Joe. We got Colin Firth. Hello, Colin Firth is Jamie. Emma Thompson is Karen. We got Chris Marshall is Colin. Martin Freeman is John. Joanna Page is Judy. I cannot say his name right. I believe it's Cheadle, I think is how you say it. The actor from Kinky Boots. His name's Peter. Andrew Lincoln is Mark. Keira Knightley is Juliet. So many stars in this movie. I love it. Alan Rickman is Harry. Rodrigo Santoro is Carl. Very good looking Carl. Yeah, I think that's the highlight. I mean, that's a lot of people. Oh, Billy Bob Thornton's in it as well. He plays the president of the United States. Lots of stars. So do you see what I mean about all the characters? Trying to keep them straight. And every time I watch this, it's like I pick a new character that's my favorite. I tend to lean toward Colin Firth here. Jamie is my favorite storyline in the movie, but they're all so good. I mean, I really get sucked in by Hugh Grant's performance in this one as the Prime Minister. I also love Bill Nye as Billy Mack. So a lot of good performances in this. Okay, so more about this storyline. So there's this aging rocker. It's Billy Mack, Bill Nye. He's trying to make a comeback, and he's singing this Christmas song. It's a cover of the song, which I always loved. It's called Love Is All Around. And I believe is made famous from Four Weddings and a Funeral, which is funny because, of course, that stars Hugh Grant. Billy Mack has rewritten it to become a Christmas song. He knows it's crap. He makes no bones about it. And his manager, Joe, is trying to get him to promote the record. And then it kind of goes into how all of their stories tied together. It all has to do with not just romantic love, but also there's a story of a father and his son and just different kinds of love. There's Laura Linney's character is very much looking after her brother who is mentally handicapped. It's just a bunch of different love stories interweaving, basically. Daniel's wife, who's played by Daniel, is Liam Neeson. She has just passed away, leaving him to take care of his adolescent stepson, Sam, by himself. Daniel's uncertain on how to deal with Sam and his problems without his wife present, especially in light of a potential budding romance within their household. So that's such a cute storyline. Sam has a crush on a little girl in his class, and so his dad kind of has to put aside his grief and help Sam deal with ways to win over his crush. It's just a cute storyline. Then we have Juliet, who is played by Keira Knightley. Juliet and Peter, they've just gotten married. They believe that Peter's best man, Mark, hates Juliet, but they won't say so. They won't tell him that they believe that. Others looking at the situation from the outside believe Mark might be jealous of Juliet, that he might be in love with Peter. Well, it turns out he's in love with Juliet. And we get one of my favorite scenes, we'll get to it, of all times in any movie with having to do with Mark and Juliet. All right. Then we have Jamie. Colin Firth is a writer taking a writing retreat. So Jamie, at the beginning of the movie, finds out that his wife is sleeping with his brother. He thought she was sick. He was at Juliet's wedding. He thought she was sick and stayed home. He went back to check on her between the wedding and the reception and found his brother there. And yeah, it's horrible. But he goes to France and he meets this Portuguese woman, Aurelia. And then things progress from there. She was hired as his housekeeper. So they're trying to figure out how to communicate, she doesn't speak English. He doesn't speak Portuguese, so it's kind of a funny storyline there. We have Sarah, who's played by Laura Linney. She's been in love with her coworker Carl for 2 years since the time they've worked together. It's something that everybody in the workplace seems to know about. Sarah has to decide if she can be forward enough to let Carl know that she loves him. It goes into she's also having to help. I think they lost their parents, so she's trying to help her disabled brother. Harry and Karen, so that's, of course, Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson. Okay, so they've been long time married. They have little kids, and they've been stable for a long time. Well, he has an assistant, Mia, who has decided she wants to be romantically involved with him. His storyline has to do with the temptation. Should he go with Mia? Should he stay with his wife? I don't love that storyline, to be honest. I love Alan Rickman. I love Emma Thompson. I don't love that storyline so much. All right. And then let's see here. We have David, who is, of course, Hugh Grant playing Prime Minister. He's young. He's single. He just got elected, whatever it is, to Prime Minister. He's at 10 Downing Street and he meets a new, assistant or something. Her name is Natalie. He's not sure what to do about her. He immediately is drawn to her. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is right here when they first meet. She's trying to make a good impression. She ends up saying the F word a couple of times. She says shit and piss it. All these things back to back. And he's just kind of blown away because everybody else is very formal around him. And she's just like, I knew I'd fuck it up, something like that. Just really funny. A great meeting scene. And so instantly he notices her and he can't stop laughing about her. Now, part of his storyline has to do with the American president played by Billy Bob Thornton. We'll get to that. He involves in the storyline, but he has a very small part. And then let's see here, left are John and Judy played by Martin Freeman. They are body doubles for porn. That's why I was talking about with the nudity. They're stand-ins. So they can communicate with each other pretty straightforwardly, but the whole time during their scenes, they're basically simulating sex while filming a movie. So it's pretty funny. It's awkward. It's funny. I like their storyline as well. Now let's talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the things I learned when I was researching this movie. So one of the interesting things I found, the movie starts off with this airport scene. People are greeting each other, and it shows the different kind of love, like best friends greeting each other, family, children greeting their parents, grandparents, things like that. It's, again, right off the bat, you're sucked into this movie. You have the voiceover of Hugh Grant and talking about love and seeing people reuniting at the airport. One of the trivia that I learned about part of the trivia that I learned about this movie is the airport greeting footage at the beginning and the end of the movie is actually real. So the writer and director is Richard Curtis, and he had a team of cameramen film at Heathrow Airport for a week. And whenever they saw something that would fit in, they asked the people for permission to use the footage. So I thought that was so interesting. And I loved knowing that was real. Because again, it just sucks you right. It did for me, at least. It sucks me right into the movie when the voiceover of Hugh Grant comes on and you just see people crying and hugging and again, meeting up at the airport. And he's talking about messages of love. Another behind the scenes fact, when casting the part of Sarah, played by Laura Linney, writer-director Richard Curtis auditioned many British girls, but kept saying, I want someone like Laura Linney. So the casting director eventually said, oh, for blank's sake, get Laura Linney then. They brought her in, she tried out for the part, and of course she got it. So yay, I love her in that role very much. Now, I love her in the role, I love Carl, the crush that she has. I find her a little frustrating only because her whole thing is she's taking care of her brother. He has to live, it's like an assisted living type situation. He needs around the clock care, it sounds like, and she's doing her best. And she feels so guilty, I think, because her parents aren't around. I think she had said they passed away, but her parents aren't around, so she's the only one there to take care of him. So she gives him her full attention, which I understand, but she doesn't communicate with Carl. So at first when we see her on the phone talking to her brother, we don't know immediately it's her brother. It looks like there's somebody else that because she keeps saying, I love you, but she's trying to comfort him. So that's the only, it's a frustrating thing with that storyline is if she just tell Carl, I'm taking care of my brother, he's differently abled, I'm trying to help him, that sort of thing. I think it would have been a lot less frustrating for everybody. That's nitpicky. All right, let's talk Colin Firth. So again, his storyline is that his wife cheated. So he went, I believe it's set in France. He went to France. He's trying to write and they hire a Portuguese house cleaner. They kind of have chemistry right off the bat, but she only speaks Portuguese. He only speaks English. So they have trouble communicating, but you get to see what she's saying through subtitles. Okay, so they end up in a lake. It was only 18 inches deep, so they had to kneel down and pretend to be in deeper water. Apparently, some of the behind-the-scenes notes is that it was overrun by mosquitoes. Colin Firth was unfortunately very badly bitten, and his elbow swelled up to the size of an avocado. He ended up needing medical attention after that scene. I had no idea. There's a funny scene where his papers blow into the water. She's cleaning. She picks up, I believe, a mug or something, and his papers blow away into the water. So she jumps in. She takes off her sweater and stuff, jumps in and tries to grab his papers, and he's taking notice of her during this. So then with Hugh Grant, there's a speech given by him in the movie. He goes into the virtues of Great Britain and he refuses to cave to the pressure of its long-standing ally, the United States. Apparently it's based on something that went down between Tony Blair and George W. Bush. The movie itself was a box office success. It had a budget of $40 million. It ended up grossing $245 million. It received a nomination for the Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. It's frequently shown during the Christmas season, and it continues to grow in popularity. They call it a modern-day Christmas staple. They ended up making a made-for-television short. It's a sequel for Red-Nosed Day that aired on BBC One in 2017. I haven't seen that. I need to go watch that and find out what happened there. Okay, now let's go into Juliet, Peter, and Mark. Again, Juliet played by Keira Knightley. I believe they said she was like 19 during the filming of this movie. Very young. So Juliet and Peter's wedding, it's videotaped by their best man, Mark. He surprises them with the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. There's a band hidden throughout, and they stand up and start playing in the church. So the couple is convinced that Mark doesn't like Juliet, but we come to find out that's not the case. He's actually, dun dun dun, he's in love with her. So normally this storyline would be like, oh, weird. Like, she's married. She just got married. But no, it's sweet. It's like that unrequited love type thing. So he videoed the wedding. She's like, I want to see it. I want to see how I looked, because something with the photographer didn't work out. So she wants to see the video. He's evading her requests. She thinks that means that he hates her. So she just shows up to his flat. Juliet insists that she sees them, and she wants them to be friends. But when she watches the wedding video, it occurs to her, oh my gosh, Mark's in love with her. You can see it in the way he filmed the video. So many close-ups of her, just a few of Peter, but mostly of her. And she realizes that Mark's true feelings are that he's in love with her. So they have an uncomfortable silence. Mark blurts out that he has to act like this because of self-preservation. He can't let himself feel these things because, again, it's his best friend that she married. You guys, on Christmas Eve, Juliet answers the doorbell and Mark is there. He's holding a boombox. It's like one of the most famous scenes of the movie. He's holding a boombox. He's playing Christmas Carol and holding large cue cards. Peter's inside watching television. Mark tells Juliet through these cue cards that he's in love with her, but basically he'll be okay. He'll get over it. It'll all work out. We can be friends. It's fine. But it's just such a sweet scene. Again, it's one of my favorite scenes of the movie. He's holding these cue cards and telling her how much he loves her, and she'll always have his heart, basically. So he walks down the street. Juliet runs after him, gives him a quick kiss, but then returns inside. Mark walks away, and that's that. Right, let's go back to Jamie's storyline, again played by Colin Firth. So he fell for Aurelia, the Portuguese house cleaner. Well, he doesn't really tell her. He ends up going back to England, and he realizes then that he's in love with her. So he begins to learn Portuguese. He returns to France, He finds her. He ends up walking through town with her father and sister as they try to find her. She's waitressing. He goes to talk to her and says in grammatically incorrect Portuguese that he basically declares his love for her, and he ends up proposing. She says yes in broken English, and showing that she's been studying English just in case. And the crowd erupts in applause. Such a great storyline. So back to Daniel, Sam, Joanna. Okay. Daniel, played by Liam Neeson here. Sam is his young son. So this is a sweet storyline. Every time they show, at the beginning of the movie, we see Joanna's funeral. Of course, Joanna being Daniel's wife that passed away. And it's so sad. I cry every time I watch it. Oh, that's right. I'm just looking now. I forgot. So Daniel is Liam Neeson. I always think that Sam is their son, but it's not that. It's that he's the stepfather. And he's going to be taking care of Sam from now on. Sam comes up with this plan to impress his classmate by learning the drums. He's convinced if he learns the drums, she'll fall for him. So he'll be able to play this big finale at their school's Christmas pageant, and that'll convince her to notice him. So Sam, a lot of the movie is Sam locked in his room banging loudly on drums. He is able to, at the end of the movie, he runs through an airport to tell his classmate how he feels before she returns to the U.S. And he runs through the airport, security catches up with her. She acknowledges him by name. She knows his name. But while in the airport, Daniel, again, Liam Neeson, he meets Carol. Carol's the mother of Sam's schoolmate. Carol is played by Claudia Schiffer, which is an ongoing joke throughout the movie, is that he has a crush on Claudia Schiffer, and then she ends up playing the role of Carol. All right, let's talk about David and Natalie, again played by Hugh Grant. So he is the new prime minister. She is a new junior member of the household there at 10 Downing Street. They aren't very nice to Natalie in the movie. They kind of talk crap about her, the other people that work with her. But David takes notice of her that first day, and they have a flirtation. There's some drama involving the American president that shows up. He's a slime ball. He's like hitting on her, and luckily David saw that it's not her. She's not trying to start up something with the American president. It's that the president was kind of into her. So it leads him to stand up to the American president, and they end up getting together because he had moved her to a different position. He was feeling uncomfortable because of his feelings to her. But then Christmas Eve, he finds a Christmas card from her in his stack of letters, and she declares that she's his and only his. And so he's like, oh, I love her. So he goes to find her. He goes on a door-to-door search of her street. Her entire family's on the way to a Christmas play, and he offers to drive them so he can talk to her. They're trying to be sneaky, and they have their first kiss backstage, but then the curtain raises and everybody can see them kissing. So it's a big deal. The prime minister is kissing her, and so that they essentially went public right off the bat. Let's talk about Sarah, Laura Linney's character. So again, she's been in love with Carl for like 2 years, the whole time she's worked for this company. She, again, is responsible for taking care of Michael, her mentally ill brother. It's a really unfortunate timing. Sarah she's loved this guy for years. He finally ends up back at her place, and they're starting to hook up, and her mentally ill brother calls, and so she has to go see to him and make sure he's okay. Carl doesn't understand, and then he doesn't realize that it's her brother, and so she ends up having to explain it. And anyway, it's a whole thing. It's a little frustrating. I find that storyline because she's not really upfront. If she just explained to Carl more clearly, hey, this is my brother. He depends on me. I got to be there for him. Instead, she just kind of takes off. And so Carl doesn't understand what's going on. All right. So let's talk about Harry and Karen. So Harry, of course, Alan Rickman, and Karen is Emma Thompson. Harry's the managing director of a design agency. He has a secretary named Mia. Dun, dun, dun. So Harry and Karen seem happy. They have 2 young children. We see Harry at work, and it turns out Mia is very forward with him. Basically lets him know, hey, if you want to do this, I'm up for it. Overtly sexual at work, and asks him very boldly for a Christmas present. Yeah, there's a whole scene where Harry goes out shopping and he calls her to ask her what she wants for Christmas. He is trying to buy her an expensive necklace. Well, he's out Christmas shopping with his wife. So Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson has a funny scene there where he plays Rufus, the salesman, who takes an extraordinary amount of time to wrap this present, so he's almost caught. She figures out that she's getting a necklace. His wife thinks that, at least. Turns out it's for Mia. So that kind of leads her, when she opens her present on Christmas Eve and realizes it's a Joni Mitchell CD, she realizes what's happened, that he did not get her a necklace, he bought it for somebody else. So she cries in her bedroom alone. They do a good job with her character. I mean, it's a sad storyline, but they do a good job of showing she has to put on a brave face for the kids, right? She makes it a nice holiday. She doesn't want to make it about herself. So she's obviously upset, but she's keeping it together for the kids. She ends up confronting Harry about it and asks what he would do if he were her. And she feels like he's made a mockery of their marriage and of her. And that's just kind of a depressing storyline. They end up staying together, but I hate it. Right, and then let's talk John and Judy. They're the stand-ins for the adult films. They met doing the scenes for the adult films where John tells Judy it's lovely to find someone I can actually chat to. And they're having these interesting conversations while basically, again, simulating sex on set. Shy at first, but then they kind of have to navigate having these conversations during these scenes. They decide to pursue a relationship. They end up attending that Christmas pageant where David and Natalie and the children are and stuff. So it kind of all ties in together. They end up getting engaged at the end of the film. The only other person of note is this guy, Colin. And the whole movie, he works with John, but the whole movie he's trying to woo different women, and he convinces himself, and he tells his friend Tony he's going to go to America because he's convinced that his British accent will be an asset over there. He doesn't know where to go. He randomly picks Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which for my non-American friends, it's just in the Midwest. It's very cold. He goes there, he ends up meeting all these women, and they instantly fall for his English accent. They invite him to stay at the home, and they're joined by their roommate, and it's just a bunch of beautiful women fawning all over him, so he is in heaven by this. So the only other character I have to mention is Rufus. He's Rowan Atkinson. He's the overzealous jewelry guy he's the jewelry salesman that wraps the gift so meticulously he basically busts Alan Rickman. And that's how Karen catches Harry buying a necklace for Mia. But when I was researching this movie and trying to find behind the scenes details, I found out that originally his character was supposed to be, you ready for this? A Christmas angel. But then they ended up dropping this storyline from the script. So he ends up just being this eccentric, I don't know, shop worker or something. But I found that pretty funny. So the movie ends, again, just as it did, it began at the Heathrow airport. So we find out that Billy's Christmas single has spurred a comeback. We have Juliet, Peter, and Mark. They're fine. They're friends. They meet up with Jamie and his new bride. It turns out he's married, Aurelia. Karen and the kids greet Harry, but Karen's stifled reaction suggests they're struggling to move past his affair, so we're not really sure what happens there. Sam goes to greet Joanna. Sam is, of course, the little boy who has a crush on his classmate who's returned from America. Daniel is joined by his new girlfriend, Carol, and her son, again played by Claudia Schiffer. Newlyweds John and Judy, the stand-ins for the movies, they head off onto their honeymoon. They run into Tony, who's awaiting his friend Colin's return from America. So Colin returns with Harriet and her sister Carla, who meets Tony for the first time, but she greets him with a hug and a kiss on the lips, played by Denise Richards. Natalie welcomes David back from his flight in view of the press, showing their relationship is now public, so they're kissing in front of the press. So the scenes dissolve into footage of actual arrivals at Heathrow, and the screen is divided into an increasing number of smaller segments that form the shape of a heart. And that's how the movie ends. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention is the soundtrack. There's a lot of great music in this movie, and it turns out the UK soundtrack is a little bit different than the American soundtrack. I guess they had some trouble with rights or something, but some of the highlights, they played Jump from Girls Aloud, The Trouble with Love, Kelly Clarkson, Here With Me, Dido, Christmas is All Around by Bill Nye, sung by Bill Nye. We have that throughout the movie. That song will get in your head. Turn Me On by Norah Jones. Let's see, Sweetest Goodbye, Maroon 5. Joni Mitchell songs because Emma Thompson's character loves Joni Mitchell. Just a lot of good music in there. I really enjoyed the music from this movie very much. As I previously mentioned, in 2017, Richard Curtis wrote a script for Red Nose Day that reunited a dozen characters and picked up on their storylines 14 years later. As soon as I'm done recording this, I'm off to find that because I haven't seen that and I honestly didn't even know about it. So I want to go find it and see what they're all up to. I hope they're all happy. So that's it. I love this movie. Very Christmassy. Again, where it's set 5 weeks before Christmas. It's played out like a countdown toward the holiday. You have so many beautiful scenes of London around Christmas time. One of the many benefits of this movie, I just love the scenery so much. Again, I'm partial to London, but I just love this movie so much. Even after watching it and breaking it all down, it's just one of my favorite Christmas staples, right? One of my go-to Christmas movies. And honestly, like I say, one of my top favorite movies. I hope you've enjoyed this. I wouldn't even call it a recap, this discussion of the movie. I hope you did. I really enjoyed it very much. I love doing these Christmas breakdowns. I love talking about especially one that I love like this. It's so much fun. And I hope you enjoyed the behind the scenes information I was able to find on this. You guys are the best. I truly appreciate all of you. I'm wishing you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, happy whatever you're celebrating, happy that. I hope you're safe and warm and cozy this holiday season. And I truly hope you all have the best day. I can't wait to bring you more stuff like this. Bye-bye.